Hey, Brigham with Drift here. In this video, 5 things I think you should know about the Spring Break powder glider. This isn't a new board. Been around for a while with minor changes over the years. I've been looking at it for a long time, but always loved the look of it. And I finally got on it, and I can tell you right now, it quickly landed on my list of favorite powder boards. But before I get into the details, check out my specs and my biases below so you know where I'm coming from. We own the boards we talk about and get them in a variety of conditions, and then we'll let you know what we think. All right, first thing you should know is that this is one of the best all-around powder boards in the game. A lot of powder boards end up being really good in certain powder situations, but what really impressed me with this is that it floats really well and it's really fun to turn in pretty much whatever situation. So whether you're in the steeps or low angle, whether it's wide open and fast, or you're in the trees and you're going slow and cruising a little bit, it just did really well wherever. There's a couple things going for you that help there. One is the camber profile. So this is almost full reverse camber, but there is a flat section from binding to binding, and then rocker in the tail and a whole lot of rocker, basically early rise here and then just rocker all the way through the nose. Makes a big difference. That flat section helps a little bit on edge, which I'll talk about in a minute. The other two things that make a big difference are the taper. This is a wide board at the waist. This is the 162 with a 27.6 at the waist. A huge amount of taper, helping with that float, and then a directional flex. The nose, in my experience, doesn't get very flappy for a shape like this, and a decent amount of stiffening back towards the tail and underfoot, which I'll talk about in a minute. Second thing that was a really cool surprise to me was how fun this was on edge and how stable it is at high speeds. So don't get me wrong, this isn't a carving board. It's not like a Karua or some other boards that are designed to be good in the powder but also really good on edge. But it locks in okay, and it's fun to turn, and surprisingly you can push it pretty hard. And then maybe even better than that for me was the flex underfoot. I was surprised by how stiff and how powerful this is. And don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing it to like a Nitro Pantera or something, but you can push this thing pretty hard on groomed or tracked up runs and it handles it. In particular, the very first time I rode it, I came out of a powder field and I needed to pick up speed down a really short but steep groomer and around a corner and into a straight kind of flat section to the lift. And I've hit that tons of times, and I always just bomb that steep section and then just rail that right-hander as hard as I can to carry as much speed as possible back to the lift. And I thought, well, let's just see what it does. And it just took everything I gave it. And after that, I just kept testing it out in sections in between powder. How does this handle at speed? And we're talking like 50 miles an hour before it started feeling a little bit squirrely. So if when you're not in the powder, you like to go fast, you like to skid turns or bomb sections, that was just a pleasant surprise for me, how fun this is in those situations. And all that stuff together makes it, to me, one of the best all-around resort powder boards out there. That can be really fun, obviously in the deepest snow. I expected that. And but also be pretty good on a groomer or when it starts getting tracked up. I thought it was actually pretty similar to the Battalion Surfer. Obviously there is a little bit of a different feel there, but the similarity is that the Surfer is another board that floats really well, but is also really fun around the mountain when the powder's getting tracked up or you're on those groom sections or whatever. Now, like any powder board or any snowboard, there's limitations. And when the snow gets bad, this gets tougher. And we're talking like when it's icy, when it's firm, when it's really bumpy, moguls, stuff like that. That's where that softer and wider nose starts to become a problem. That lack of camber, it becomes a problem. But I'm talking firm snow. If it's soft and tracked up, this is still really fun. And honestly, the kind of snow I'm talking about, at that point, you should just be on a different board. It's not what this is made for, but I'll mention it. All right, fourth thing I want to talk about is value. Now, I can't claim whether this is worth it for you or not. That's just really subjective from person to person. But if you ask, that's a really expensive board, does it have features that, make it worth that money? I can mention a couple things. One is that this is a really light board. So like if you compared it to the Karua Dart, the Dart is way heavier than this. This would be more like the Karua Plus line. So if that matters to you, there's some value there. Another thing that I think is pretty cool is that with a lot of brands that do like a Sparrowtail or a Swallowtail, let's see if I can show you this, you can kind of see how committed they are to their build quality when you look at these funky shapes at the end and see what's going on. And some brands, like the metal edges just end and you'll have sections without a metal edge, or you'll have like big gaps in the corners and just like wonky, it just doesn't look that good. Not only does this carry the edge all the way through, but it actually has like extra aluminum from here and all the way around the edge, both on the horizontal plane and the vertical plane. And it is so clean and perfect. There's no gaps, there's no spots where it doesn't come together well or anything. This is something I don't stress about a ton, but it's something on this board that I noticed and was like, man, that's some of the nicest finish that I've seen, especially on a funky tail. You compare that to like the Dart, not to pick on the Dart too much right now, I love it, but that thing comes with a sticker down by the tail that says like, be careful, you can break these if you don't treat it right, which I just think is absurd. So the finish, the build, it's good. And the last thing is the base. I don't know how it compares to all the models in the past, but this is the fastest base that I've been on out of the plastic this year. So really cool. The only thing I would ask for is a different top sheet. I think glossy top sheets feel cheap, and that's because like they just get scratched up and nasty so fast. There are other top sheets like what they do on like a K2 Alchemist that I think handles wear and tear way better and still looks really good. It's fine. It has not been beat up at all. And this graphic actually will hide a lot of scratches and stuff, but gloss just isn't my jam. Anyway, you'll have to decide if it's worth it. But if you're looking for a second board for days with soft snow, I mean, this is hard to beat. You're going to buy it once and you're going to keep it for a long time, especially maybe you can find one off season and get it on sale. 100% worth it. Fifth thing, and this is only really for those who are bigger riders who might be looking at this board. You're looking at it, you're going, man, I love that shape. That looks so amazing. It's pretty common for brands to limit their size runs on more expensive specialty boards like this. And this tops out at a 162. For me, most of the time, this was fine. But there were situations where I would have loved one size up. A little more nose and a little more width. And so if you're bigger, and I mean like if you're 200 plus pounds and you're a taller person and or you have size 12 or bigger boot, just look at the specs, make sure this matches what you want. The most deceiving thing about it is if you just look at waist width, which is 27.6, you're going, oh, that's plenty of width for me, but it has so much taper that under the back foot is not very wide, so you just want to keep an eye on that. Obviously the overhang's not going to be good on carving, but that's not really the concern here. But don't be fooled. One of the downsides of super tapered boards is in deep powder, if you have a big foot and a lot of overhang, it actually causes a lot of drag. So If it works for you, it's awesome. But if you can tell that it's a little too small, don't do it just because you love the look of it. There's other options out there. But if you fit in the size range and you've got the snow for it, this is very easy to recommend. I loved it. It's on the favorites list. I'm going to ride it for a long time. Those are my thoughts on the Spring Break Powder Glider. Hit me up below with your comments and questions. Love to hear from you, and we'll see you in the next video.